Let's call this meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Charleston?
Here.
Commissioner Patel?
Here.
Commissioner Van
Here.
Vice Chair Payne?
Here.
Chair O'Brien?
Here. Will you please all stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Ready to begin?
I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Are there any public comments on anything other than what's on the agenda?
No, sir.
Okay. Any additions or deletions to the agenda today?
None from staff, sir.
Okay. Let's move on to item 5, the consent calendar. Do we have any comments or corrections? And if not, do we have a motion to accept?
Motion to approve as presented.
Second.
We have a first and second roll call, please.
Commissioner Charleston?
Abstain.
Commissioner Patel?
Aye.
Commissioner Van Leeuwen?
Aye.
Vice Chair Payne?
Aye.
Chair O'Brien?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0.
Okay, item number 6, we have public hearings. 6.1, project number PLN 16-00027, Goodman Commerce Center, tentative parcel map. Do we have a presentation?
Mr. Chair, we do. We're getting that teed up, and Yvette Noir is going to give that presentation.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, Chair Obelia and Commissioners. Tonight, the project I'm presenting to you is tentative parcel map number 37208, project number 16-0027. So a little background on this project. On June 11, 2014, the City Council approved the Goodman Commerce Center specific plan and the tentative parcel map. The tentative parcel map number 36487 divided the 193-acre Goodman Commerce Center into 11 parcels to be developed for industrial business park and commercial retail uses. The approved tentative parcel map 36487 included the 5 planning areas shown here. This one? Shown on the right. So the proposed project, which is tentative parcel map number 37208, was submitted to further subdivide planning areas 1, 4, and 5 into 26 parcels that can be sold and or leased by separate owners and tenants. The parcels for the currently approved tentative parcel map 36487 do not correspond with the site plans for the future commercial and retail development. So tentative parcel map 37208 would effectively create lot lines that correspond with the site plans for the commercial and retail center, which includes the new Costco and the Costco gas station. The configuration of the proposed parcels include lot lines that delineate each commercial and retail use and their respective parking lots. This helps to facilitate orderly phasing and construction of public and private improvements servicing the project. So staff recommends that the Planning Commission approve tentative parcel map number 37208.
Thank you. Do we want to go on to questions, or shall we open the public hearing?
If you want, Mr. Chair, if there's any questions of staff, you can ask those now before public hearing.
Any questions from the commission to the staff? Commissioners? Well, then let's go on and open the public hearing. Public hearing is now open. Do we have anybody wanting to speak on this issue? Yeah, nothing?
No, sir, no speakers.
Okay. With that said, we'll close the public hearing. Public hearing is now closed. Do we have the applicant here that wants to address the commission?
We do have the applicant here, sir. If you have any questions, I think he'd be happy to answer them. I'm not sure they plan to make a presentation.
I just have a clarification. Is the proposed 37208, that's not just for parcel 1, that's 1, 4, and 5?
It's for planning areas 1, 4, and 5.
Okay.
Yes.
Planning areas,
1, 4, and 5.
it's not just 1, it is the whole frontage of Hamner of 1, 4,
It's-
and 5,
Yeah, everything north of the business park, all the way up to Cantu Galliano.
which parcel 3 would be the business park.
Yes.
Correct?
Planning
Okay.
area, planning area 3
Sorry.
is the
The
business park.
planning area, okay.
And then planning area 2 is the first large building, the Amazon building, and then the second building that'll be along the freeway.
Correct. Planning area 2 would be Amazon.
Yes.
So planning area 4 and 5 had previously, when we approved this, there was some acreage for some potential development. Has that potential development and how it was set up for 4 and 5, has that since changed in the past 30 to 60 days?
No. No, this is just creating parcels, mostly for the retail center, but they're also parcelizing the hospital portion of it. And those lines will probably move around once we have a development proposed down there.
Okay, so I wasn't going to say the word hospital, but since you did, are we looking at, I guess, partial, like 1 and 6, which would be 8.7 acres and 7.9, or? Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, it's a little hard to read up here, but
It's the parcels to the east, the bottoms.
Yeah.
these ones down here where the pointer is?
Correct.
Yeah, this whole thing down here is basically the hospital area.
All of those parcels?
Yes.
So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6? Okay. So that's still on the table? We
Yes.
presume.
Well, the applicant can maybe fill you in a little bit more on that. They're still working with a hospital
Okay.
tenant. So we don't have that submitted yet, but that's still
I
in
understand.
process.
I was trying to determine I understand in parcel 1, from the retail side, totally get it. I was trying to determine if something had changed as to why there was the need for the parcel change, whether it had to do with the hospital or without the hospital.
No, and again, the applicant can fill you in more detail, but this is being done primarily for the retail center. So we're doing a few things here. We're creating parcels that they are leasing to Costco for the Costco store and the gas station parcel.
14? Mhm.
And then north of that and a little bit south of that are the rest of the retail parcels. So when you look up in the very northern part, you'll see something
good
that
with that.
corresponds pretty much with a development plan that you'll be reviewing, we hope, in January, that starts laying out Goodman's portion of the retail center. So the lines are going through the future parking lot, and the idea is that each tenant has a share of the parking lot that has enough parking spaces in it to accommodate their needs. That's why you see all those kind of weird parcel lines up there. They're following drive aisles and parking bays and so on.
My concern was just what, if anything, had changed for the hospital, and that's some of the parcels, but I'm
Yeah,
good, thank you.
nothing has, and as I said, based on how that development plan ultimately comes in, they'll probably be moving lines around. They're just creating parcels now to be able to do that.
So that they can do lot line adjustments.
Any further questions? Questions? So parcel 7 is that off-site parking lot, just to clarify?
Yes, that's correct.
Yes. Okay. Any other questions, comments? Do we have any comments by the commission? Do we want to make a motion on this?
language up there yet.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move the approval of the tentative parcel map number 37208.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a first and second. Is that proper, good enough wording for this
Yes.
motion? Okay.
Motion to approve staff recommendation.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Charleston?
Aye.
Commissioner Patel?
Aye.
Commissioner Van Leeuwen?
Aye.
Vice Chair Finn?
Aye.
Chair Williams?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Good luck. Let's move on to item 6.2, project number PLN 160029 and 160030, general plan amendment and change of zone.
Mr. Chairman, I will need to recluse myself from this discussion.
Okay, you are excused. Staff, do we have a presentation?
Yes, sir. I'll go ahead and give the presentation. I want to thank Yvette Noir for writing the staff report. As you mentioned, the project involves two things on the same parcel. One is a change in the general plan land use designation. It's going from what we call medium-density residential, which is basically the kind of bread and butter single-family designation for most of Eastvale, into what we call high density, which is an 8 to 14 per acre range. So it's an increase in density on the site on the general plan. There's also a corresponding zone change to take the zoning from agricultural to an R3, which is a general residential zone. If you read through there, you'll notice that the current general plan and the current zoning don't conform with each other as they should. If both of these are approved, the two will be in conformance with each other. So the site that we're looking at here, hold on. Okay, thank you for that, Yvette.
Little hijinks, huh? Okay.
I'm sorry. So the site we're looking at here is on the south side of Citrus. Hold on. You can see that one more time. Highlighted in red here. So to orient yourselves, this is Eleanor Roosevelt High School. This is Citrus Avenue here. Hamner's over here, and Community Park is down here. The second phase of Community Park is going to wrap around the southern end of this project all the way over to future Scholarway, which is right here. So the background on this is a little bit interesting about how we got here.
Yes.
Slightly.
Explain
So
it to
if we go back to 2 weeks, well, actually 15 days before Eastvale became a city, the Board of Supervisors approved a general plan amendment
That
to
was
do
15 days before
incorporation.
incorporation?
Yes, September 16th of 2010, they approved a general plan amendment to do exactly what's being proposed now, to increase the density range into the high density category. So that was done. It was approved by the county. Now, the next step, though, that should have happened was nobody ever told us about that. So when we became a city and we went to the county and said, give us everything, give us your maps, give us your files, and so on, we didn't get that. We were, so what they did was this was the map that the county approved in 2010. The map that they gave us, though, looked like this. It looked like the map that we have today. So between that, 15 days before incorporation and then handing over all the files, they never made that change in the computer files that they gave us. So the general plan map that we got looked like this, without that change on it. We use that.
Can I interrupt you for a minute?
Yes.
That previous map, is that one you created, or is that from the county? That exact map is from the county? or
That's
did-
from the county. Yeah, so that's the map that we never got.
Okay, thank you.
So this is the map that we did get. So starting in 2010, we used this map. And in 2012, when we adopted the new general plan, we adopted this map. So that action effectively invalidated whatever the county had done, because we now adopted a new map on top of it. So what we're left with today is this map, which looks like it is right here. And again, so the current designation is medium density between 2.1 to 5 dwelling units per acre. They're proposing to increase that. The total number of units that could be built on the site goes up from 79 to 221. And we note in the staff report, those are theoretical or potential units. Typically, you don't come in at the very high end of the range. It's very uncommon to do that. It happens once in a while, but it doesn't always. But in terms of looking at the project impacts, we use the highest number that we could, just as a worst-case scenario. Now, there's also a change of zone associated with the project, going from the current agricultural zone to an R3 zone that corresponds with that general plan category. And again, that would make the zoning and the general plan consistent. Now, we note in the staff report that for whatever reason, I think the county just does things differently. They processed a general plan amendment without the zone change. So we prefer to do things at the same time here and keep everything consistent. So they were apparently waiting for a future applicant or the current applicant to come in at some point in the future and ask for a zone change. So we're doing it all at the same time.
Seems backwards.
And the proposed zoning is shown here. It's pretty straightforward. We're going from the agricultural to the R3. Now, we don't have a development project in front of us. All that you're looking at this point is the land use policy in the general plan and the zoning to match that. At some time in the future, somebody will have to come in with a development proposal to develop the site. And that's not uncommon. We don't require that you come in with a project when you're changing the general plan and the zoning map. So when that project comes in, we wanted to give you some ideas of what that would look like. There are current developments in Eastvale that are in that category at various points in that range. So we've highlighted some of those here. The Lodge on Limonite, just west of Scholar Way, is in that category. It's about 8.8 overall per acre. Lewis's Homecoming, the apartment project, is in that range at about 11.9 dwelling units per acre. And Serafina, which is a little bit south of Limonite on the east side of Hamner, a townhome project, is a little bit out of the top end of the range, but I think those give you some ideas in a local context of the kind of development that would occur on this site. So in the staff report, we lay out our reasons why we think the commission should recommend approval of both of these changes to the city council. First of all, because we're kind of fixing a mistake that the county made when they didn't, because the applicant has been through this twice now. Once at the county, paying all their processing fees and so on, getting an approval, and then now having to do it twice because we just never knew about it. So reasons why we think this is appropriate: first of all, the site's not directly adjacent to any existing residential development. We know that it's sometimes difficult when you're putting a higher density residential product next to existing single-family homes. That can be a bit of a heavy lift. We don't have to deal with that here because there are no single-family homes directly adjacent. They're across Citrus on the other side, so we wouldn't have to deal with those issues. It's directly adjacent to Community Park, so both being able to have the folks who live here be able to go to that park easily. And this type of development, if we go back to this type of development, typically deals with kind of those external noise and other factors better than single-family homes. So it's another reason to put it adjacent to Community Park, which does have lighting and noise and activity happening at it. The third reason is that high-density developments of that type are often easier to lay out. You don't need to create lots that are all of a more or less uniform shape and size like you would if it was a single-family development, which the current general plan designation would require. The internal roadways don't need to be quite the same. You can deal with terrain and topography, and there is some terrain on here. It kind of slopes down as you're going toward the river. So this type of product is going to be easier to lay out on the site. And finally, the proposed density is part, I think, of an overall effort that we've been very successful at here in Eastvale of providing different kinds of home ownership or rental possibilities that open up either owning or renting to a wider range of people who want to live here in Eastvale. They'll be less expensive than a typical single-family home. So we did an environmental analysis of the project and determined that we can adopt a negative declaration. The council will do that, but just so you know that. We did a traffic analysis, and I believe we have the engineers here who did that. Traffic was obviously a concern of ours, particularly in the mornings. If you've been through there, it's a bit of a trial. What they concluded was that the additional traffic from those 142 or so more homes wouldn't affect traffic in a significant way. It'll put more cars on the road, but it's not going to create congestion that doesn't already exist. It's not going to make existing or future congestion worse just by virtue of putting more cars on the road. Now, the environmental analysis is going to start public review this week. So we don't have the comments in on that yet. The council will have those comments, and they'll have our responses before they're asked to take action on the project and the environmental document. So staff recommends that the Planning Commission recommend to the council that both of these changes to the general plan and the zoning map be adopted. And so your recommendation is to do that. You can also, you have options as well. You can recommend denial, you can recommend approval with additional conditions. We really haven't proposed that many because there's not much to do in terms of conditioning these kinds of changes. If you feel you need more information, you can also continue tonight's public hearing. I will note that just in anticipation of the commission hopefully reaching conclusion, we have scheduled this for the council next week just to introduce the item, because we are in a general plan amendment schedule. So it is on the council's agenda for next week. Obviously, if the commission isn't able to come to a decision, we can postpone that, but we are trying to keep this on a schedule. The JCSD is involved in this. There's a roadway dedication issue. We'd like to kind of wrap all this up as quickly as we can. So that's staff's presentation. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Any questions for staff?
I do.
I do too.
Karen, go ahead.
I always go
All right,
first.
yeah.
We'll let
You want me to go
Derek
first?
Darryl, go ahead.
I'll go first. So a couple questions I have is, I read the general plan amendment, and there's a lot of stuff in there, and they spend a lot of time on the traffic study. I did notice that. But I know also, though, if you talk to some of the residents that are in the new housing in that area, they would say the traffic study is not accurate. That there is a lot of complaints from the high school traffic. Now, it talks about early morning, it talks about, 5 in the afternoon, and that doesn't normally include the high school traffic. They're considering it more for working people, not necessarily the school traffic. So it's kind of, I don't know how they added that in, but all I'm thinking is traffic is going to be somewhat of an issue. So it's not that we can't handle the traffic. I read, where if you take a 78-second wait, and once they do the improvements at Citrus and Hamner, the wait time is going to go down to 29 seconds. So they've got it planned out how they're going to improve this. So in a roundabout way, I guess my question is, because it's a general plan agreement, because we're only doing a zone change, is this a time where we talk about, is there going to be a dedicated easement that will widen Citrus the way it needs to be widened at the time there's ever a project here? Is that included?
That will be a condition of approval on the development project. So when they come in with the development project and they're coming in with a map, which will probably come along with that, a parcel map or a condo map, that dedication will be shown on that map and it'll be required as part of that project. But that's the point where we'll get the dedication.
So at that point, no matter, and I'm asking the question
Yeah.
because of the residence that's there,
Yes.
and that residence is stopping that widening to be done. So when this is an all-inclusive project where it would include all 15 and a half acres, that would be part of the condition in order to put more dwellings there. To me, it seems like that road has to be widened and it needs to allow for more traffic.
Yeah, absolutely. That'll be a requirement. The dedication and the construction of the widened roadway is going to be a requirement on the development project. And as I mentioned, approving both of these actions will facilitate the granting of an easement and the widening of Scholar Way. So that's going to happen even sooner than the widening of Citrus.
Okay. My next question is that the examples you gave us, they were great examples, and they all stayed relatively close to the high density 8.1 to 14, and then I noticed the one that you threw in there that was 22 per acre. That was one of the last ones.
Step forward, yeah. Nexus?
That was one of the last examples you gave. And it's okay, I'm just saying,
In the report.
in the report.
Yeah, it's in the staff report. Nexus.
So,
Yeah.
so my question is we won't know, I mean, when we talk about these projects being 10 or 11, you know, that's not so bad. So we won't know until when it comes forward, whether it would lean towards the high side or the medium or the low side.
No, you won't, but you'll know that it won't go any higher than 14. That's the highest they can go.
Right. Let's see.
So if we showed a 22 per acre example, I forget what that was, you won't see anything that dense because the general plan category wouldn't allow it. You could only go up to 14.
Oh, so, and then one more question, and then that's it, that answers it. I was more worried about the dedicated easement to relieve traffic instead of adding to traffic at this point. So then, the other question I have is, and when we talk about the city's general plan now, and that there's a percentage, we called it, that 50% of Eastvale's 2 to 5 homes per acre make up about 50% of Eastvale's planned land uses. Well, that includes all of our land uses. So if we were to just look at residential alone, 2 to 5 acres is going to be much higher than that, right? 2 to 5 homes per acre, I mean.
That's
If you look at land uses as a whole, just residential all by itself, 50%, is that the right number, or is that considering all land uses across the city?
All land uses, it's from the general plan.
What's on the chart, is it describes
That's towards-
land uses?
It does.
Yeah.
I don't have it.
I mean, you put a pie chart there that's very, you know, it explains it quite well, but I'm curious of what is the 2 to 5, if you take all the other stuff out, do we have any idea?
The medium density.
Because I'm thinking that number is gonna go way, way up from 50%.
Yeah, if you're looking only at residential, the 2 to 5 is probably somewhere in round numbers about maybe 90%
That's what I'm thinking.
of all the housing in
Okay,
town.
that was my question, because, and the reason I want to make sure that's on record, and we're, you know, if you want to make that exact, I don't care, but I was thinking the same thing, it had to be over 80%.
Yeah.
Because I want to make sure that people understand the decision being made is based on the housing portion of it, not complete all land use that's in the report. That
Yeah.
we're comparing this saying, this is not a bad idea based on, because 90% of the housing right now is 2 to 5 dwellings per acre, not 50% is 2 to 5.
Right, and the point we're trying to make was if you want to have a better mix of housing with more opportunities for people in different income categories, then having 90% of your housing single-family doesn't get you there.
Perfect. I just want to make sure we were clear on that. Thank you.
Are you ready, Karen?
Sure. I have about 5 questions. One, I guess, with the transportation roadway, I'm assuming the traffic signalization improvements would also happen at that time versus now? Okay,
Yes.
just checking, okay. And then, has there been any coordination or inquiry with the RCTC because this is right on the bus route? As far as enhancement, improvement, have we had any outreach or communications with them?
No, we don't have, but we continue to talk to RTA, in this case, in the bus route, and they continue to provide services. And when we have development like this, when the development plan comes in, we will contact them to make sure that they are supported.
Okay, over the years, I think we've gotten better, but we've missed that coordination with RTA, and when we were looking at the Leal property and the trolley, and, I mean, if we're gonna have this kind of density, we need to have that public transportation, and they need, we all know that it takes 10 to 20 years to get some of that stuff done, so I just wanted to make sure that they're aware of it. To tag on to Commissioner Charleston's comment, at what point could we potentially bring up for this density to be senior housing, or a portion of it, since we lost that designation over by Fitness 24 on that zoning? At this point, is that something that would be brought up?
We really don't have a mechanism to require it to be senior housing. In the case I think that you were talking about, for instance, up in where Nexus is right now, that was done with a specific plan, so that was a different zoning mechanism. We don't have a senior zoning district to put on this.
But if that was up for discussion or an idea because of the diversity that's needed in this community, is this the time that we would bring that up?
Yeah, well, as the city attorney is reminding me, we don't have a development project in front of us, so it might be more appropriate at that time. We
Okay.
don't know who the developer is,
Right.
exactly what they're going to come in with. They may come in with that. They may come in with a product that is just by virtue of its design
Okay.
amenable to
I
seniors.
just wanted to make sure that if it wasn't brought up now, that that option wouldn't be available in the future. So until we have a development plan, at that point, that could be something, I just want to make sure we don't lose that opportunity.
No, and that's a good point, Commissioner. This basically just sets forth what the land uses are, the land use.
Okay.
How the land use is going to be ultimately developed is going to rely upon what the project's going to be, and that can vary. It's, senior housing can be high density.
Yes, absolutely.
So this doesn't imprint any particular type of project, just the land uses of it.
Okay. And then going back to traffic again, has there been any sort of impact, not only with high school traffic, but what about the STEM Academy with those extra 800 students that'll be coming? And then also, what about the impact with JCSD and the softball field that's going in directly south of this? I didn't see that being noticed in any of the traffic studies.
Well, we have the traffic engineer here who did that study, so maybe we should have them come up and answer I think those are a couple of detailed questions that I'd rather have them answer.
Because that intersection, I still have a high schooler, and it's a challenge. And I love the fact of having this density, it's close to the park, it's great, but I want to make sure that we're not, what is it, biting our nose, whatever the saying is, because of the traffic. And that's just a major concern, especially at that intersection.
Yeah, let's have the traffic engineer answer those questions.
Fabulous.
Good evening, my name is Charmaine Sell, I'm with Urban Crossroads. We are the company that prepared both, we're the one that prepared this traffic study. To answer your question, some of those additional cumulative developments, future developments that are maybe occurring more near term, those kinds of things would be addressed in more of a typical traffic study that when you have a specific development that's being proposed. For what we prepared here, this was specifically to look at the general plan candidate. So all we did was evaluate the existing conditions to assess what's occurring today. And then what we did was evaluated long-range conditions as it's currently adopted versus what is proposed, to just simply demonstrate that even with the change in the additional 140-some dwelling units, that you're not resulting in any future planned roadway improvements that would be needed without this project. So the improvements are the same.
Only if the approved plans for the STEM Academy and the approved plans for JCSD and that softball park, then your long-range numbers, I think, are going to be off. Am I the only one that has that challenge?
No.
That was always a park, right? Isn't it
I mean, help me understand what I'm missing.
Well, the long-range forecasts represent, I think
2040.
conditions
2040.
for Riverside County.
Yeah.
So it's for the whole county. And we run those model forecasts.
You gave
So it's
substantial
assumed
growth.
that, there are certain regions that are fully built out. And it would include, not specific projects, but assumptions that areas are built out to what they are planned to be built out as.
I'm very familiar and have worked on the 2030 back in Chicago, so, but I'm not familiar with the 2040 for Riverside County, if in fact these recent developments have been included. Is that something, Joe, are you aware, or are you aware that, because, I mean, you're looking at, even if you take 800 students plus another 200-300 faculty, I mean, that in itself is 1,000 plus whatever happens in the rest of this park, which will only continue to increase.
Well, the city has been participating in the process of the East Stem development with the school district, and they do have a, I guess Charlene, you're the engineer for East Stem as well, your company over in Crossroads?
It may be, but it's not.
Okay, all right. Well, they do have the traffic study done, but again, there is specific development that is checking all the traffic signal intersection capacity, not in the long range term. And I have to check whether or not that has been included in the 2040. I'm pretty sure they have been. And as well as the expansion of the community park, the phase 2. Those are the one that Ms. So earlier said that has been included in the background traffic study, has been updated from 2030 to 2040. This report for tonight's project or action by Planning Commission is not addressing the specific issue of intersection design or capacity, but it's overall design, because in the circulation master plan that we have, Planning Commissioner Charlson earlier asked whether CITRUS is going to be widened or not. Those have been laid out a long time ago in the circulation plan. That's why we have 8 lanes, 6 lanes, 4 lanes, whatever streets throughout the city, based on the information that is at the big picture information. Now, whether or not the intersection is going to require an additional right turn lane or left turn lanes, that is going to be specific to the projects. So to answer the question that, general question that we have here, yes, CITRUS is going to be widened with this project. Yes, Colorway is going to be widened all with the extension, not just by this project, but also when the park expansion 2 comes in, they have to include the widening of Scholar Way all the way to the end on their portion on the west side. Therefore, the traffic signal at CITRUS and Scholar Way should be modified. When this project at one day comes in with the development plan, they will have to widen CITRUS between Scholar Way and the park. So that is going to be the detail that I hope I answered the questions, but I can verify with you.
You have,
for you.
and obviously the fact that we're even talking about this is because somebody assumed or somebody thought that some things happened. And I would just want to formally request that we make sure that both the traffic study for the STEM as well as the extension of the community park, because we're going from medium to high density, and it might not be huge, but if we're already missing those two, then guess what? It's more than just a little oops from a medium to a high density. We now have 3 projects that everybody thought and assumed. So I just really want to make sure that we communicate that. That's all I have.
We will check that and get back
Thank
to you.
you.
Just to clarify, I'm sorry, your name was Miss. Oh, sure, Miss So. The traffic study you said was done off of current conditions because there's no development project presented, correct?
Well, we evaluate existing conditions so that you have some sort of baseline. And then what we did was we evaluated long-range conditions as it's currently planned and then what is being proposed. And the purpose of that is just to simply to demonstrate that whether you develop it as it's currently proposed or currently planned, that it's the same, that the improvement needs are the same. So even if you were to add these other projects and everything, all the background traffic were to increase, it would increase the same. And so what you would still demonstrate or find is the same, which is that the findings would be there are no changes in terms of lane requirements that are required for one that isn't required for the other. So that's all this study was demonstrating.
Because that sounds a little different from your first comment. So this is, maybe I'm confused. I need clarification. So this traffic study is done based off of existing conditions, current existing conditions, and not of potential development project that would build to the highest number of the density allowance, correct? Because we don't have an existing development project by a developer.
Right. Well, what they did was as Ms. So said, they started with just how the traffic is now, cars on the road, numbers of lanes. They said, well, if we take the number of cars that could be generated by the 79 or so homes, put that on the future road system when all the roads are widened to the number of lanes that they're proposed to be widened to, and then say, well, what if we add the 142 more homes? Do we need to put more lanes in any of the roads? And their conclusion was no. So obviously 142 more homes puts more cars on the road, but it doesn't require us to go from a 4-lane road to a 6-lane road. That the 4-lane road that's already planned to be built there will handle the traffic. Now, some of the details about how that intersection of Scholar and Citrus works, where the driveways in and out of the residential that might get built here, where those go, whether there's medians, all that kind of stuff comes when we have a development project. We just can't look at it at that level of detail because we don't have it. And by that time, the STEM Academy will probably be up and running, the park will probably be in operation, and we'll have better information to make those fine-tuning decisions about how that intersection looks.
And can we visit the density change at that time?
Well, you'll have a project in front of you at that time, and you'll have a more detailed traffic analysis that looks at those very specific issues. So you'll have those answers. This looks more at a macro level.
So if we don't change the density at this meeting, we can change the density later on when there's a development project close
Well,
by, or
you could do that, but what's being proposed is, or what staff's recommendation is, that you recommend making this change, and then the developer comes in, or someone comes in later and actually brings a project.
I'm not very comfortable with the current traffic study because I know you can there's different ways you can study it, peak hours, the data can be skewed. So, and from what we've seen personally in that area, it really doesn't sit well with me personally. So it doesn't make sense from what I've seen.
Yeah. Well, as I mentioned, the council is going to get the final environmental document, and we've been taking notes. I know Joe has. We can certainly talk with Charlene and her folks, make sure we address those questions in more detail. I think we have a good feel for what your concerns are, and make sure that that information is there when the council acts on the project, because they're the ones who really need to take into effect or take into account the environmental impacts before they approve the project. So I think we understand what your questions are, and we'll certainly work with Charlene and her folks to answer those questions before it goes to council.
Okay, I have a few questions. Thank you. For the staff, why didn't it get put on our general plan for this high density?
Well, once again,
Land use?
we didn't know about this until earlier this year, when the applicant's representative came in and said, I noticed, Eric, that your map doesn't show what the county approved in 2010, and that was the first time we had ever seen that.
So,
we just didn't know about it.
and a negative mitigated declaration, that wasn't included also?
Well, the county did all that. They did all that stuff
Yeah,
before.
but we didn't get any of that information
We never
when the
got
general
that.
plan was?
No.
And do we have a legal responsibility to adopt this amendment? I mean, does our general plan have to match the county's when we become incorporated?
No, sir. No, it's our general plan now. So this amendment should be, whatever you think should be, your recommendation should be based on whether you feel it's an appropriate change or not.
So it
Not-
went out for review of the residents when the general plan was being established, and there was no comments by the applicant at the time the general plan was being created?
We never knew about this until earlier this year.
Okay. All right. I have no further questions. I think it's time to open the public hearing. Public hearing is now open. Do we have any cards for comments? Okay, please step up to the podium and give us your name and address, and then fill the card out after, please. Well, just a minute, just a minute. We need to record you. Yeah.
My name is Mary Aldrich. My address is 13200 Citrus Street, but my entrance to my property is on Scholar, on the west side.
So you're a neighbor? You're the neighbor? Is
I'm
that
adjacent to, yes.
Okay.
Okay, we talk about the traffic, and they do all these studies, which is not true, what they come up with. I have had nothing but problems with traffic right now, if there's not even a project, set. I have complained to the city of East Vale, complained to the fire department, complained to the police department. My driveway has a gate and I have to enter. During school time, they block me where I can't even get out. I mean, they actually block my driveway. They could post no parking, no stopping. They don't listen. And they have a record that I complained. So I've had nothing but problems with traffic. Sometimes I have to sit there and wait. Not only that, they get upset if I mention some of my workers are cleaning the site and they tell them, you can't come here, you can't park here. It's just ignored. They leave their kids out. One time I reported to the police department, one of the kids was going to get hit because they leave, they let out their kids right there on Scholar. So as far as the traffic study, it's wrong. And we're not, like you say, they're doing studies of right now, but it's incorrect. But I have a lot of concerns about that. I do.
This is your email that you
Yes,
sent to them?
please.
Okay. Could you read that, Eric, please? For the record?
Yes, sir, this came in this afternoon, so this is written to the City of Eastvale, care of the vet, and it's from Ms. Altflish. It says, "This email is in regards to the public hearing on project number PLN 16-00029 and PLN 16-00030. My concerns are regarding the future development of my property. How will this project impact future traffic, property access, sewer and water to my property that is adjacent to the project area? Your immediate attention on this matter is greatly appreciated." And the commission received copies of this on
Thank
the
you.
dais tonight.
Do you have any further comments? All right, thank you. Any other comments? With no further comments, we'll close the public hearing. Public hearing is now closed. Do we have any further discussion or comments we'd like to make?
Closing comments, as far as I'm concerned.
Karen? Daryl?
Nothing.
Do you have any?
No, I guess my only closing comment is that, we've talked about this is just a land use right now. So even though either we approve or deny this, either way, it's just a land use situation right now. So the project would come forward, and I do feel for you. I've raised 3 kids, went through the high school, and our kids were walking and riding skateboards much earlier than I would have liked, but it was traffic. So I understand that, I get that, I feel for you, where you guys live at. This, what we're talking about tonight, will not negatively impact you, because if the project goes through, improvements have to be done. And that was the statement I was trying to get out earlier, that can we do this without that? And it'll come through the commission and the council again, And it won't go through unless improvements are done. That'll be tied into the project. The planning department, staff will take care of that. So I hope that makes you feel a little better. The high school traffic, I can't answer on behalf of that. As far as I'm concerned, this isn't a bad thing. We need more housing like this. I hope when we do get a project coming forward, that we design the roads in a way to where we may be able to put more entrances and exits onto Citrus that would alleviate some of that going closer to Hamner. That would help considerably. And then widening that out, because in the traffic study where I saw, one of the things that they have to do is they're going to put a second turn lane going north on Hamner. And that will help considerably. That's in future plans right now.
There already is one.
But it,
Oh, not on Hamner.
not on Hamner.
Order. No comments from the gallery. Sorry.
Not on Hamner, though. So there's 6 intersections that they're going to improve. So as far as I'm concerned, we've addressed this quite fully, so thank you.
Do you have any? No? Do you have anything, Bill?
Well, I mean, I'll say right now, I'm for the zone change from heavy agriculture to general residential, R3, but I'm not for the density change at this point, at this time.
Okay, thank you. My closing comment, this project, well, once we do this, it's permanent. We're going to allow high-density housing in that property. There's no going back once we grant this.
Well, if council approves it.
Well, if council approves of that, that's our recommendation to the city council. That's true. But like Commissioner Patel said, that additional 1,370 trips per day that they're talking about is above and beyond the medium-density housing that's already granted to them. So that's a total of, it would be 3,502 trips per day with 272 peak AM and 388 peak PM numbers, if I'm correct. And so that would be, it's in addition to the medium, if I'm not correct. Am I correct on that?
I don't think it was
The
that
high-density traffic study is above the medium density that's already approved.
Yeah, I'm looking in the staff report, and I think it says traffic from the project was estimated, so the proposed change, to generate a total of 2,132 trip ends per day on a typical weekday. And then it breaks down.
Additional?
No, that's a total. So that's not in addition to what the current designation would be. That's if you increase the density and if you build all the units that you could build under that density, that's the number of trips.
So it's just 2,000?
2,132.
For the high density?
Yeah. So compared to the current general plan designation and the number of units you could build with that, it's 1,370 trips more. So it is an increase. So you're putting more houses out there. The number of trips goes up, but it goes up to a potential of about 2,100.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what you said, it just wasn't doubled.
So traffic does increase.
Yes, traffic does
Obviously
increase.
it does.
I was understanding that the original traffic study was done for the medium density, and then if we approve the high density, then it will go up that amount. Because we already have a medium density for that area, right?
That's a current general plan, yes.
Yes. So did they do a trip count for that density?
They did, and I don't see that, I'd have to do the math in here, but if you take 2132 and subtract 1,370, that's the number of trips that the current general plan designation would.
It's a 700.
It's about 800 trips.
It's a 700 difference.
700. Well, It's about 700 now. It increases about 1,300 to get you to 2,100.
Okay. All right. And the traffic in that area is outrageous right now, and it's not going to get any better, like Commissioner Patel was referring to with the softball fields going in and the STEM Academy. And the traffic is between Scholar and Hamner. That's where we get our biggest problem in that area.
I do have a comment.
Go ahead.
Part of the reason that the traffic is so hellacious is it's 2 lanes. And everything around it is 4 plus a turn lane. So with the improvements, of course it'll have more, but it will get better because now we're trying to squeeze through a little sardine can. But my concern was just that we're looking at the big picture and the impact. I actually would prefer high density over median because you generally will have either older senior citizens or you will have the teachers who can walk across the street now, or those that will take transportation to go to Norco College. Because if we have median, you're looking at mom, dad, and 3 more kids. And that traffic and the impact to the city, I think, is going to be far greater than the few high density that's there. And because it's so close to the park, I think it also would be a huge draw for those few 20-somethings that are single that don't really live here because we don't have any housing stock. So I just want to make sure that the traffic improvements, as Commissioner Charleston brought up, that they will be there. We do have a point once there's a development plan to go intact. So I just wanted to clarify my concern of traffic was just that it's being counted and the improvements will be made in the future, so.
I guess I don't feel as optimistic as you do, because I see the traffic between the 1 lane in each direction and the Hamner signal. That's where the bulk of the traffic is that I see.
Right, which is 2 lanes.
Which is 2
instead
lanes,
of
but
4.
it doesn't help. And then it'll just get worse. And the signal is in Norco. They're responsible for that, not us. So we have no chance to change that. Am I correct?
Yes. We just have recently added the second left turn.
Yes.
In that area, right?
Yes.
It's also to improve the area. Let me just say this. As part of the East End project that we have, I don't know if it's going to be through Citrus or Scholar or not, but they are proposing a couple more traffic signals on Scholar Way. And that is going to regulate traffic more. But I should say the widening of Citrus from 2 to 4 lanes would increase the traffic, improve the traffic.
Well, they'll get to the Hamner signal quicker. I'm sure of that. Are they proposing a signal at the western egress on the park too?
Not at this point.
I thought at one point they were suggesting a signal being there at that, what is that, Cloverdale?
We don't have that plan right now, but what I should say is that when the development plan comes for this project, there's an opportunity that they can share the signal or share access with the park. And at that time, that maybe we can add either signalized section or widening on Citrus, even more than 2 lanes, like dedicated right turn or acceleration lane for left turn, something like that. But improvements continue to be made. I understand the concern we have here, but I also just want to point out that there's no traffic normally happens in the morning and in the afternoon.
In the evening and, when kids go to park and when kids are out of park and when Silver Lakes is open and when Silver Lakes is closing and, yeah, it's all the time. Thank you, I'm done. Do we have does anybody want to make a motion on this?
I'll make the motion to approve the recommendation from staff that we approve both Plan Number 16-00029 as well as 16-00030. General Plan Amendment and Change of Zone.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Charleston?
Aye.
Commissioner Patel?
Aye.
Vice Chair Fain?
No.
Chair Rowland?
No.
Motion fails for lack of majority.
Okay, let's move on. So what will be our recommendation to the city council, then? It just fails?
It just goes to the council, and basically that, there was, any motion to approve was not made because of lack of majority.
Okay.
Can we make I mean, I don't know if it matters, but can we make another motion to approve just the zone change? To,
R3?
R3.
You could change the zoning to R3. I'm not sure, well, is R3 consistent with the medium density?
I think it
Or
is.
R, I mean, R2.
We typically use an R1 zone in that category. The R3 is designed for higher density.
Then, I mean, down to R2 or R1, I mean, that's, I mean, my point is, I'm not against the high density. I'm just, again, I'm not comfortable with it right now because we don't have enough information on it. Traffic study is kind of a little hazy to me. So, I mean, I'm willing to approve that later on or make a recommendation, but, I mean, ultimately, it's up to the council, so I'm just wondering what we can do on that end.
Well, as I said, we'll certainly transmit to the council your questions, Mr. Commissioner, and others about the traffic analysis. We'll get into more detail on that and provide them, I think, hopefully a more complete picture of traffic, and they'll have the benefit of that and other comments that may come in on the environmental analysis before they make a decision.
Next.
All right, let's go on.
Yes.
Let's go on to item 6.
Wait for Bill to get up there.
6.3. Yes, come back in.
So, Mr. Chair, Kathy Perring is going to give the presentation on this project.
Okay.
Good evening, Chair O'Bland, Commissioners. This is the campus project number 16-00032. And this project is, if you've driven by, actually being graded right now. It's already under construction. It's located on the west side of Archibald, just south of its intersection with Limonite. In the past, it was referred to as Providence Business Park, or if you go back even further, the Berkshire Eastvale Business Park. It's now referred to as the campus. What is being requested by the applicant now is some revisions to their existing development plan approval, which was approved in 2014 by the Planning Commission. And they are adding a total of a little over 37,000 square feet to 11 of the previously approved buildings. And one building would be increased by about a little over 16,000 square feet, the others by smaller amounts And it's because of the request to increase one of the buildings over 16,000 square feet that this is coming to the Planning Commission. Otherwise, those approvals would be made by staff. So this is a summary of the places and the buildings that are being increased and by how much. The number and location of the buildings is all the same. The number of dock high doors is all the same as what's approved. There are no changes to the office retail portion of the project. Those buildings are remaining exactly the same, unchanged. And buildings 2 through 12 actually have minor changes that could have been made at the staff level in terms of the amount of square footage and change. But building number 1, again, is the one that requires your authorization. And I wanted to give you the numbering so that as you refer to these plans, it's a little easier. This is the existing approved plan that they could build today. This is, boy, that's hard. This is Archibald Avenue here, so it has a very small amount of frontage, and these office and retail buildings right on the frontage are not changing at all. So the view and everything that would be seen from the public roadway is the same. The street coming in here, I believe, is now referred to as Providence Way. That circulation is the same. The buildings that are changing are those buildings. 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11 have increases. 12 actually has a minor decrease in the plans that they've approved or submitted. And this is building 1. The primary change that will be noticeable from the outside at all is along the front of the building here. It currently, in the approved plans, has 19 feet of landscaping, and they're reducing that down to 10 feet. This is in the back of the project. It faces another building mostly, and I think with that and the landscaping that's in the parking lot, we're recommending that this change doesn't represent anything that would be noticeable change in the project. The only other area that's changing that I want to bring to your attention that we actually did add a condition for, this is the parcel 3 that's up in the front on the north side of the entrance road. And in the original approval, the first part of the street, actually if we go back a couple slides, the first part of the street here that you see is not gray, that was going to be public to this point with an access point required to the north. Subsequent to that, Public Works, and Joe can speak to this if we need to, but that's been now required to be a private street, and that access has been removed. So it now is going to be an area that's landscaped. The only landscaping that is shown are just ground covers and so forth, and this is still an active dairy to the north, so we're recommending that there be some trees along the property line here to continue as much as possible to provide screening there in that area that's now increased in landscaping. So that's the only additional condition that we've requested. We did an addendum to the environmental impact report and traffic analysis to determine, again, this represented no significant changes from what was evaluated in the EIR. And staff is recommending that you approve this major development plan review as conditioned. And I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have any, and I believe the applicant is here as well.
Commissioners, do you have any questions for staff this time? Carol?
Did we put bike racks in when we approved this a couple of years ago?
Wow.
Sorry, I just, did we? You know, I know we started to focus.
There has to be, because
we started to focus on
but
that like 2 to 3 years ago, and I couldn't remember. Okay.
Are they still there?
Yes, they haven't changed that sort of thing,
Yeah,
so I would go down to that level of detail. we'll make sure there's bike racks at
I
the
mean, I'm not
appropriate
gonna use them,
number.
but, you know,
Those
we
are
have some
part of
other
the
denser
conditions.
housing, and if
Yes.
somebody wants to be an employee there, it would be helpful.
Bike racks.
You're welcome to ride your bike there, Commissioner.
Yeah, I don't ride bikes
Commissioner
much.
Charleston?
so.
No questions. I think it's a good project.
Yep.
Commissioner Van Nieuwen, you have any questions? Commissioner Fang, no questions? I have no questions. At this time, then, we will open the public hearing. Public hearing is now open. We have anybody we had a couple of people that wanted to comment. Brad Boatman. Pardon?
We're the applicant. We bet you guys have questions.
Oh, okay, and this is yours?
Yes.
Oh, I see. You didn't have to fill it up. And Ray? Okay. Poliverini? Very good. How about that? Okay. So, does anybody else want to make comment? Without any comments, then we will close the public hearing. Public hearing is now closed. Do you have any discussion on the issue, Commission?
No.
Good project. Love the
Any
breaking ground.
questions, any comments? Do we have a motion then? Somebody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the major development plan review for project number 16-00032 as recommended by staff.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a first and a second. Can we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Charleston?
Aye.
Commissioner Patel?
Aye.
Commissioner Van Nieuwen?
Aye.
Vice Chair Payne?
Aye.
Chair White?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Good luck. Okay, let's go on to item 7, presentations. We have none. 8, staff report. 8.1, planning project status.
Yeah, once again, if you have questions about anything in there, be happy to answer those. You'll see, again, a lot of stuff happening on a lot of different projects. Starting early next year, you're going to see groundbreaking on just all kinds of stuff all over town.
Excellent.
From Costco to this project to others.
Have we run into a stumbling block on Limonite and Sumner? We thought they were going to be breaking ground this past summer, towards late summer.
Oh, Sendero?
No,
The Eastville Marketplace.
the retail market.
Evergreen?
Oh, no.
They're active.
No, we haven't. Actually, I was just on the phone yesterday with the architect for the tire center, so they're getting ready to bring in their construction documents. We've been in plan check. I think they're ready to pull permits. Well, they're in plan check, but
Okay,
no.
okay.
No, they're definitely moving forward.
That's a question I get from people that live over on that side of town, just saying, hey, I thought they were breaking ground a couple months ago, and I said, I'm not sure. I know
Yeah.
they're moving forward.
They are, and you're also going to see, hopefully in the near future, the 2 drive-through pads that were required to come back to you for detailed review. You'll see those coming in. We've been working with both of those applicants. So, yeah, that will be happening.
Good.
Is it public knowledge of the anchor store going in that shopping center? I don't remember if we made that public.
Yeah. It is. It's public knowledge.
It's public knowledge?
If you need to know what's going in, call Craig, and his wife will tell you, because she knows.
So do we have anything from them about some plans or for that store or anything yet?
They plan to open, or at least, I believe they'd like to be open third quarter of next year.
So you better get on the ball then.
Yeah. Yeah, but they're quite close. Mr. Chair, the only thing I'd add that's not on the agenda is, as you know, tonight is a special meeting because we generally meet on the third Wednesday. So we will be sending out a notice of cancellation for that meeting. So there will not be a meeting on the 21st of this month.
Thank you.
So you're free to go do other things that night. And as it says in the agenda, the next time we see you will be next year in January. And on the council's agenda, next week, they have a special meeting to seat the new council and select the mayor. There's also an agenda item regarding commissions. So you might want to come to that meeting and see what the new council members decide to do with regard to planning commission members. We've posed that question to them, and we'll all get the answer next week.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any, I know it's still soon, but have we heard of
Commissioner
any-
comments, go ahead.
Oh, I thought I was just following up on your, sorry. On the Leo project, or the Leo property, is there anything, any word?
Well, we're currently waiting for the dust to settle. Basically, you know, following Mr. Leo's passing, there's a number of issues. It's a large estate, as you can imagine, so we're waiting for all that to settle out, determine who we should be dealing with, who represents the property, and then get back together with whoever that person or persons is and potential developers and continue those discussions. So we're just waiting for that process to resolve itself.
Do we have any other commissioner communications?
I have one request that I've noticed a lot more commercial truck parking again in the streets, in the residential neighborhoods. Now that it's fall, I haven't noticed as many RV parking for an extended time. There's 2 in my neighborhood that I see, but, you know, summer's over with. Unfortunately, I had a guest at my house whose car got hit because of kind of the parking and the traffic situation. I don't know on corners, I mean, I try to get out of my own subdivision and have to go in the lane of traffic because cars are parked so close to the corners, you can't see. And you know, as we get more and more of our developments filled and a lot of our lovely new citizens, I just want to make sure that we haven't missed that either through code enforcement or whoever's supposed to be making sure we don't have these big trucks and cars can't get by. And anyway.
Commissioner Patel, following our conversation last week, we have gone to the field and I saw pictures after discussing after the meeting with you.
Oh, all right. Well, I just, around the city, I've noticed, and, so, okay, thank you.
So,
Commissioner Song?
2 things. The first thing is, a question I've been asked several times too, is on the corner of Schleisman and Hamner, where the 99-cent store was gonna go in, there are for sale signs on property there.
It happened for a long time.
Is
For
that
sale or lease,
the same
yeah.
property, or is that a different section? It looks like the same property to me.
It is the same property, they own the entire vacant lot all the way from within the fire station and Schleisman.
Okay?
They're developing the southerly portion, which is an 99-cent store. The northerly portion, they don't have a plan yet. I did talk to the developer at one point and said, what's up with the for sale sign? He said, well, we're looking for tenants. That's what they're looking for. They're not going to sell the whole parcels. They're just looking for tenants for future buildings that are going to be coming into the location. That's what they said.
Okay.
Yeah, and we also, well, Joe and I think Craig, you were there too, were in a meeting with 99-cent store last week, working out ways that they can get credits for some of the improvements that they're going to build to offset development impact fees. So they're still interested in building the store, and we're working with them to help find a way to make it pencil out better.
Okay. And my second comment, and it's more of a generality, is today I just want to remind everyone that it is the 75th anniversary of Pearl Harbor. And it's a big thing. It's been on the radio all day, kind of reminding people. But it's funny, as all the things we go through in life, I've talked to some World War II veterans that are still alive, and I have a relative that was served in World War II that's still alive. And he says it seems like it's pretty much forgotten until this day. So it's a big thing, and I just want to make sure that we kind of think about and appreciate, that was a pretty devastating day. Average age of the people on that ship that were killed were 19 years old, at 2,300 of them. They were pretty young. So that was a Pretty crazy day. Thank you.
Mr.
Commissioner
Chairman,
Van Nguyen, do you have communication? Do you have anything to say? No? You already said something?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, go ahead.
I do not know Mr. Craig or whoever he is or something.
Can we introduce him to the commission?
Am I the only
Craig
one?
Ratch, I'm a supervising engineer. I've been here since about 10 days.
Mm-hmm.
Doing one of the developer reviews and time check and inspection issues in the city.
Beautiful.
Yep.
Good.
Yeah,
Sorry.
thanks for getting for Ruben Casaneda who left for Ontario. You know, Ruben, yeah,
Okay.
Yep.
I apologize for that.
Okay, we forgive you. Okay, I would like to wish the staff and our commission a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And we'll see you guys January 18th. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Larry.